Hey everybody, how we doing? We're back for another installment here on the 27D. Really quick, I noticed I don't have much battery, so I'm going to try and make this quick. But we are going to install the clutch pulley onto the tractor and then hopefully install the clutch fork as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Essentially, we have our dust shield installed. Now, this dust shield, if you can see this lip here that comes off, there's a kind of a flange that comes off the back side. That flange should face down. So once that flange is in place, you've got 4 bolts around here that have lead washers, lead crust washers. Tighten those down, and then safety wire on all the bolts. Once that's done, we're going to oil up the crankshaft, make sure that's good and slippery, and we'll go ahead and slide the pulley in place. Okay, let's see if I can do this on the first shot. Okay. Have to try and move that gear here. Have to get a screwdriver. You got to get the first reduction gear aligned with the teeth on the pulley. I think we're all the way on. Looks pretty well aligned to me. Okay, after a little bit of research, clutch pulley is in. So we can go ahead and put the clutch fork in. Get everything aligned here. Huge thanks to Mark Meyer for all the work that he did on refurbishing this clutch fork. Hopefully you don't got too much glare from the flashlight I have behind the camera there. Sounds like everything's moving the way it should. The clutch foot is square on the pulley like it should be. That is absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. Go ahead and tighten those 4 cap screws, and that's going to do it for tonight. I'm tired. It's 11 something at night. I'm ready to go to bed. Okay guys, we're back in the shop and we're putting a major piece inside here. Pistons and rods. I spent some time this morning fitting and adjusting the rod bearings to the crankshaft. And the method I've always used is what was told to me by an old John Deere mechanic. He said that all you need to do is take shims out until the rod won't rotate anymore, and then add another shim. So that's what I did. So, get my rag here. Go ahead and I've already cleaned all the cylinders out, wiped them out with a rag. Got everything going here. One last thing I want to do before put a little more lube on the wrist pins. A little assembly lube. There we go. Now, these pistons are marked, or the rods are marked. There's a series of dots, 2 dots, and then there's also a number 2 stamped into it. Just want to be real careful as we slide everything in. And I'm going to do the rings by hand, which probably will be a challenge, especially with everything all oily. Okay, so the ring groove on that one is at the top. Check the back here. Okay. I'm going to rotate the crankshaft so it's out of the way.
These paper creations are amazing works of art. It offers inspiring artistic ideas for paper
Towards the
creation
rear.
using simple techniques and available materials.
Excuse me, Bubba.
Please sit down. This chair.
We'll pull it back.
Hi. Wait, honey.
Okay, Daddy's got to sit there. Excuse me.
No.
Go sit in the blue chair. Sit in the blue chair, please.
No.
Okay, then I gotta move you. Next ring.
Demonstrates how to turn simple ideas into projects that combine creativity and simplicity. These paper creations are amazing.
Oop. Okay, and the next one we'll put
Paper creations are
90 degrees off again.
offers inspiring artistic ideas for paper creation using simple techniques and available materials.
Let's try 180 degrees off. It might be
Why
easier.
doing that?
I'm putting this together.
Creations are amazing works of art. It offers inspiring artistic ideas for paper creations using simple techniques and available materials.
This is really a challenge.
Paper creations are amazing works of art. It offers
I can't do it with the gloves. They're getting pinched. Oh man. Whew. I need to sit down. It's too hard to do standing up like that. I can't get my hands at the right angle. And I'm out of breath doing this. Man. Whew.
What?
I don't know.
What? What?
I'm gonna rethink this here. Okay guys, we're back. For some reason the audio in my video didn't record. I'm guessing the plug wasn't plugged in, so I'm narrating, but I'm just showing the larger spring compressor I had to get, or spring compressor, the larger ring compressor I had to get from O'Reilly's. And then I got the first piston installed. That'd be piston number 2, closest to the clutch. I got that one installed, and we're going to go through and install the piston on the number 1 side. And I'm just going to go through and oil the cylinders, oil the piston, oil the inside of the ring compressor so that everything is coated well. I also put assembly lube on the connecting rod bearings so they're ready to go as soon as they slide in. So O'Reilly's had this piston ring compressor in stock. I already had a piston ring compressor, but it only went up to, I want to say, 6 inches. So I needed to buy another one for these larger 6 and 7/8 pistons. And this is just a very gentle set in and slide of the connecting rod and piston. And takes a little bit of wiggling to get the piston in and started. So the first one we have here is an oil ring. I always stagger the grooves on all the rings. The best practice that I know of is to set them all 90 degrees offset. So start with one vertical, then another one. The next one you turn it 90 degrees, left or right, doesn't matter. The next one in line you do the same, 90 degrees, turn again, 90 degree turn again, and then you're good to go. So now this piston ring compressor is very similar to the one that I have, but the difference is in the lock levers. I like the lock lever on my smaller piston ring compressor more than I do the one on the larger one, but I'm pretty sure they're the same brand, and I got them from the same place, O'Reilly's, or most of your auto parts stores sell the same manufacturers of tools. So it was just a big box auto parts store that I got my first one at. So just wipe the excess oil off my hands to make things easier when working with the tool. It's not exactly an easy tool to work with the larger you go because it has less rigidity. So just getting it slid over the piston and turning the rings in the places they need to be in. So these pistons, they came from Sharp's tractor, and they are a 6 7/8 high compression piston. So they're an 1/8 inch overbore from stock. Factory was 6 3/4 inch. These are aluminum pistons, and they do have an angular cut on the head of the piston, and the shallower end goes towards the top of the cylinder because that's where the spark plug and compression release priming cup is. You also should be able to read the writing that's etched into the top of the head of the piston. It'll show 125 over. So when you insert, if you have pistons from Sharps and they don't come with instructions, like these ones, that is the method in which they need to be installed. Now these pistons also do have 2 oiling rings. There's one at the bottom of the skirt below the connecting rod and wrist pin. Then there's another one further up the piston on the top side. Then there's 3 compression rings to finish it off. So just using the soft end of the mallet to drive the piston in. Keep an eye on your piston ring compressor because it may kind of pop loose a little bit when a ring slides past it and goes into the cylinder, so you may have to retighten it again. So just some things to watch out for. Again, keeping an eye on the piston. Where installed there, you can see a little bit better view of the angular cut on the head of the piston. The top of the piston is flush with the block, and the bottom of the piston sticks up about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. So just pulling the piston back into the bore towards the connector, the crankshaft, so that we can connect the connecting rod and get things ready to start turning. Okay, putting the rod cap on. If you look at the top of the rod cap, there's a little dimple, number 1 right here. On these 2 cylinders, number 1 is always closest to the flywheel. Not sure what we got going on here. I'm going to put these on just to make sure nothing falls off. I'm telling you, these things have been fighting me. I had to stop doing what I was doing and take my daughter to swim class, and okay, where's my mallet? Rubber mallet. Okay. Okay, let me get this cap seated and I'll get right back with you. Okay, everything's tightened down, so we're going to go ahead and turn it over a few times. Everything feels really smooth, no tight spots. I'm liking it. Well guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Got the pistons and rods in. The rods need to be torqued to 100 foot. The rods need to be torqued to 100 foot-pounds. I'm going to borrow Domino's torque wrench because I think my torque wrench is probably not the best as far as the calibration goes. So I'll pick that up from him. And then after we torque the rods, we can install the studs in the block, put the head on, and seal that part up. And the engine will be pretty much done except for getting the end plate set on the crankshaft. But in order to do that, we got to put the clutch all the way together. I need to order another clutch disc. For some reason, I only ordered one. It requires two. But we need to order another clutch disc. We can put the clutch side together as far as, you know, the pressure plate and the clutch driver and that. And then the flywheel is what we set the end plate with. So once the clutch is in, the flywheel can take up the rest of that end plate and the engine will be officially done. Speaking of flywheels, the 1927 Model D, at least this serial number range, has a keyed crankshaft. The D was introduced in 1923. There was only 50 built in 23, and then 24, 25, 26 all had keyed crankshafts all the way to the beginning. So from 23 to 25, you had the spoker Ds with the spoked flywheel. Then in 26, you had the nickel hole flywheel that also had the keyed crankshaft. And then 27 had the larger diameter holed flywheel with a keyed crankshaft. And then somewhere in 27 into 28, they changed the crankshaft to a splined end instead of the keyed end. So I've been holding this for nearly a year. In 2 weeks, it would have been a year. But this has been a surprise I've been wanting to reveal to you guys for a long time. And I've even left little Easter eggs in videos previous to this, but there's only one person that caught it. And I know there's a lot of purists out there that are going to be upset or kind of scoff at it, but you know what? This is my tractor. It's my build. I'm doing it the way I want to do it. So without further ado, what we have for a surprise for you guys and for me, but for you guys, I've been keeping this close to home for a year, so there's only a few people that know about it. But without further ado, we have a 26-inch Detweiler's spoked flywheel. This is a brand new flywheel. This is cast by Detweiler's. They do a beautiful job. They have it cast and then they machine it. They do a beautiful job. And it's just temporarily on the crankshaft right now. It makes everything easier to turn for me when I'm setting up the pistons and rods. So it's temporarily on there. We still have to do some sealing behind it. And I just got the key lightly tapped into place so that we can turn it. But there we go. Everything turns like it's supposed to. So we have a Spoker D, not original, of course. It's a 1927 keyed crank John Deere D, but I'm converting it to a Spoker D. So there's already going to be a bunch of things on this that aren't correct for 27 anyhow. The block isn't correct for 27. This is a 28 block. The 27 and earlier had a 2-bolt water pipe on the top. It looked very similar to this, basically, and they were prone to breaking, so they went to a 4-bolt. It had the 6 3/4 bore. I believe the earlier D's were 6 1/2, I think. So the block is different, the water pipe is different, the flywheel is different. The rear wheels that I have aren't the right rear wheels for a 27. They should be the 6-spoke style, not the 12-spoke, but I have the 12-spoke. What else is not correct? That might be about it. But those are some pretty significant things. Wheels, the flywheel, the engine block, and water pipe, they're all pretty valuable items. So huge shout out to Detweilers. Big thank you to them. Yeah, it's looking good. Once we get the rods torqued, we'll put the cotter pins in and the castle nuts. I've already got them sitting right here, so they're ready to go. But that's going to do it for this one. That concludes episode 21 for the John Deere D, which is now a Spoker D. So hope you guys enjoyed, and take care. See you in the next one.